Hello, parents. My name is Andy Hansen. If you're receiving this recording, I currently have one of or more of your children in my freshman English class. I just wanted to introduce myself and kind of put a name to a face and kind of help you navigate some things that we have in the class. So, all of my students, this is the main hub we use, is Google Classroom, and all of you should have received an invite to join as a parent. And how you do that is, if you go to googleclassroom.com, you should see an invite pending, and it should have been sent to your email. But if not, I can try to resend that. And just for you as a parent, it's helpful to see, what we're doing in class, what your kids are doing. You can see what they've gotten done. You can click on their assignment to see if they submitted something. So, yeah, this is the main stream of our class page. And where I post assignments is under Classworks. So the first unit that we're currently in is poetry, and we're just going to go through this systematically. So we're going to be talking about different ways of analyzing poetry, and they will be practicing that way and writing their own poems. So it's a fun unit. We also use something called Edpuzzle, where they review videos and answer questions, and that one gets its own grade in the grade book. And this is a question that I sometimes get. With Edpuzzle, I don't grade them individually. The system actually, I grade them if they're an open-ended question, but it will create a final score. So if they have like 5 Edpuzzles currently and they're all graded, it would say Sam has a C in Edpuzzle, and so cumulatively in Power School, I will put that as a C, if that makes sense. So if the next week he misses 2 assignments and drops him to a D, then I would change that to a D. So that one is just going to change that way. It was very arduous to try to grade each of those individually, so that's how that one works. The same thing will work for read theory and no red ink. These are exercises that I have the kids do before class. So when they come in, that's kind of their exercise, and they should be able to do all these in class. If they have a lot of these to do at home, it's because they are not doing them at the start of class, which is when they're supposed to be done. Okay, let me talk over my syllabus. Now, I have not sent my syllabus home with them. I have everything electronically, so I'm not printing anything. And to save them a step, I am just sending it straight to you. So you don't need to sign it or anything, but if you do have concerns, please respond back to me in a message that I'll send this to you with. And if I don't hear anything, I will just assume that you accept and that it's fine. So, all right, so my freshman syllabus, just a couple things here. It goes from March 6th to June 1st. My prep hour is first hour, so if you do need to get a hold of me, that is one of the best times to reach out to me. Although I would be happy to visit with you other times. You can shoot me a message on the text service or an email, perhaps. Okay, so class objectives. This try, we're really going to be focusing on poetry and Shakespeare, and so we're going to be doing a lot of close reading. That will be a practice that we're going to be looking at. I'd really want them to, the idea is, like with poetry and Shakespeare, is that they can, read more deeply into what the words are saying, and that has transference to, many other areas that just go beyond poetry for its own sake. We'll be doing some writing. So I'll let you review those. So poetry, Romeo and Juliet, and then we have what's called a passion project, which is like a mini senior project without the paper and significantly less time. But a couple years ago, we decided as a department that we wanted to better prepare our students for this massive class, and I taught my first one last trimester. And getting them prepared for this necessary step for graduation. So we thought that this would be a good way to close the trimester out. So you can see more about that as we come closer. Okay, now the big million-dollar question, which some of you might have already heard about, but I wanted to make sure it was written up here nicely. So, as some of you probably are aware, our school does not really have an active attendance policy, which means if a student is absent, 25 times, the consequence would be if their grade, happens to be a fail, they fail. But there's no consequence in lieu of that. They don't have Saturday school. They don't have lunch detention for that. Which I understand in some ways why they don't, but I also know there's a lot of parents who are frustrated, and I and many other teachers are frustrated, and I'm not blaming the district office. This is something that is very state level. But in my own class, I have decided to implement an attendance policy that does not punish the students, but rewards them for being here. I've had so many students who will miss or come tardy excessively. So this is kind of my response to that. So the reward here is if students meet certain criteria, I will exempt them from taking my final because I feel that they have learned the material properly, that they wouldn't need to. So let's see, the main points that I have on here is I do not want them to have more than 6 absences. And an absence, in my mind, is unverified. So that means they weren't called in excused, they just happened to be missing. So maybe, they did stay home and it just, you didn't call in, or they're skipping, but that counts as an absence. And then an excused absence, that would be if, you called in and said, hey, I'm keeping my son home today, or I'm taking my son out to lunch, or he has something. And that counts as an absence. Now, before people get angry about that one, I am going to excuse several types of absences. So if they have a medically excused absence, so if they have a doctor's note saying, Sally had to undergo this major surgery, or they have a COVID test and it's marked as positive, or other things that I would excuse are bereavement. So if you have a funeral, I'm not going to count that against you. Or if they have to meet with counselors, and there's a slew of notices in there, but just to be simple, like unverified and just a simple excuse is not going to count. Now that is one whole week of the trimester that they would miss, and that used to be what the policy was: is that you have to go in and meet with the committee to plan for how can I get credit this way. So 6 absences. I have also, this might feel excessive, and maybe it is, but I said if you have 10 tardies, and this doesn't count excused tardies. So if they come in and they have a note from a teacher or something, that will count against them. I've had some students who constantly come in like 5, 10, even like 20 minutes late every single day. And while I can't mark them absent necessarily for that, that is detrimental to their learning because they miss stuff, and I start right at the bell. So 10 tardies, and if they exceed that, then they have to take my final. And then I haven't written this down explicitly here, but if a student comes in and then they ask to leave my class and then they're gone for the whole period, I've had that happen before where I won't mark them tardy or absent, but then they disappear for the whole period. I know people have to use the restroom and all that, and sometimes that takes a while. But if it's becoming a chronic problem, I will go back and I will change those, and I'll let them know that that's happening. So the point is I want my students in here. There's a major correlation between students here and their success in class. And then finally, I am very conscientious that a student can be here and not technically be here. So I would like my students to have a C or better. If they have a C, to me, that would suggest that they have the material down well enough. Okay, if they have lower than that, they do have to take my final. Okay? Again, that's not a punishment. It's just I want you to show me that you know the material well enough that I can warrant passing you. Now, when I say a C, that doesn't mean that they won't pass the class with a D. If they have a D and they take the final and they do fine, that's not a big deal. Like, they can still pass my class, but if they don't want to take the final, I would like them to have that down. And they do need to have a C. I didn't put this down here. I will add that right now. I put it as May 19th. That way, if they come in and they dump a ton of work on me the day before the final and I can't grade it, yeah. So it has to be by May 19th that they have to be at a C. Okay. So if you have questions or concerns about this, please let me know. And this is not ironclad. I know that some students will miss more than one day or more days than that sometimes, and it's beyond their control. So if a student, wants to visit with me, I'm willing to work with them. So for instance, if they have, a B, but they have 8 absences, we can talk, okay? Also with my grades, I just do straight A, B, C, D, F in the grade book. So like an A is a 97, a B is 87. I just do that straight. So they're not always going to correlate with what it says in like Google Classroom. If I give them, an 18 out of 20, that would be 90%, but I would still put it in as an A in the grade book. And I've talked to my students about that. And if there's any question about that, you're certainly welcome to visit with me. I think for the most part, late work, if I don't receive it, it is a 0 until it's turned in, and then I can mark it as collected and then eventually grade. Just as a note here too, I am not the quickest grader. I try. I do the best I can, but I do have a lot on my plate. I have a lot of different classes. I am also working on my dissertation. I have 3 little kids at home, so the best policy for a student is if they don't want to have to incur a late score, which is a 0 till I change it to whatever score they earn on it. They just need to get it on time. If it's late, it might be that way for a couple days, if not longer. So I think the rest of this, you are free to peruse through on your own, but that is kind of the bulk of my stuff. So I look forward to meeting some of you if you come to parent-teacher conference or if you have questions, but otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your attention.